Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
Everybody, welcome to Dr. Homebrew, our second show for the month of February, and we're very excited to be here. We have an in-studio guest, someone called Peter Munoz, who I believe is German. Hey, hang on. Try it again, Peter. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, you're doing all right. How you doing?
Not too bad. You've been here before.
I have.
Several times. Yeah, for sure.
He's also a beer judge.
That's right. What level, what gradient of beer judge are you?
I am still a certified.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm supposed to move up at some point, but I haven't taken the time.
You haven't taken the time?
Nah.
Well, instead of studying or taking the test, you're here with us.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
We should be able to magically wave our wands from Dr. Homebrew at you, or
that's what I'm hoping.
And will that inoculate
wand take
you
like 6
somehow
months as well?
We'll swab your cheek, and
right.
in 9 months you'll be a national.
At least national.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Minimum
national.
We would never disrespect you, Peter, by grading you lower than national.
81 points.
Yeah.
I'll be fine with that.
Before we get started, though, thank you to 5 Star Chemicals. Go to 5starchemicals.com, and you, too, can become the cleaning version of a national BJCP judge. That means you know at least a little bit about stuff, and in this case, it's cleaning and sanitizing with 5-star products. I'm very excited for NHC coming up because we get to hang out with the folks at 5 Star again. Yeah.
We like
so that. That's always a good time.
I'm excited for CBC because 5 Star is always at CBC also. So if you're at CBC...
Oh, man. Brian, I'm not even going.
People ought to go check that out. Yeah, it's going to be great.
I haven't gone to CBC in years because Justin doesn't take me anymore.
It's too bad, man. It's a lot of fun. I've got a client that goes every year, so I kind of go and hang out with him a little. And it's a client that I met at HomebrewCon in... was it Portland that we had that a few years ago?
Yeah,
I met him in Portland.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's not always it's more of an industry thing than a homebrew thing.
Yeah,
but
is this the one in Austin?
Yes, the one in San Antonio.
San Antonio, sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. We're staying like half a mile or less than that from the Alamo.
Nice.
Which I've been to before, and it's like really tiny, and it's
so
hard
tiny
to remember it because it's like it's not big.
What time of year?
Yeah.
It's this
April, I think.
Yeah, it's April.
Oh, okay.
So not so good Lord, not summertime.
Yeah.
Not
no
too
one's
bad.
going to Central Texas in the summer if they can help it.
No,
right.
No.
Yeah.
I love Texas. I love Central Texas. It is not fun in July.
We've been in July.
Yeah. Oh, I feel
sucks.
for you. Yeah.
When we would go on summer
it's
vacations,
terrible.
we would drive through there in the middle of the night if we could.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I ever went to Texas. It was 2001. It was Homebrew. Well, back then it was NHC. 2001 Dallas Fort Worth, and the doors from the airport, like where you pick up your luggage, the double doors.
Mm-hmm.
The first set of doors open, you're like, oh, it's a little muggy, and the second set of doors, and it's like it was like opening an oven to check on your fucking cookies or whatever. It's
Yes.
like, and we landed at like 11 o'clock at night. It was disgusting.
A water-filled oven.
Terrible.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
It never gets better.
No, it doesn't.
Until like October.
It does it ever, though, in Texas? I don't know. Anyway, let's get our first guest on the line, huh? We have Chris coming up here. And what does he have, some sort of pumpkin spice, John?
Pumpkin spice beer, yeah.
You know what? I'll save the accolades for Chris if he picks up the phone. I don't know. Here we go. Hey, Chris, are you there?
Hello.
Chris.
Hello.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Contact. Bad phone cord?
How's it going, man?
Good. Yeah, bad headphones, I guess. Good. How are you guys doing?
Not too bad. I was just about to tell Brian Cooper, for those of you keeping track at home, that I appreciate the fact that not only did you brew a pumpkin spice beer, but you sent it in. Like, a lot of people are very nervous or very shy about the fact that they even like to drink these stupid beers. I like them personally. I try to drink whatever, whenever they come out, I try to drink them. So
Yeah.
Is this your first pumpkin spice beer?
No, it's not. It is a yearly tradition.
Is it?
My wife likes them quite a bit as well, and
Okay.
I like them every once in a while too. So
Yeah, I mean, if they're done right, you know what I mean. And we're about to find out if you know what I mean. Yeah, give me that bottle. What are you guys hogging my bottle for? All right, Mr. Brian Cooper, why don't you start us off, please?
Yeah, so we had a light hiss when we opened it there. Bottle fill looked good. A 30B in the 2015 guidelines. And yeah, thanks for saying we don't get these every day. The nose has a pleasant, but to me, somewhat kind of big clove and nutmeg spice character up front. It does smell like the expected spices, albeit strong. I will admit, I don't brew pumpkin spice beers. I think like if they get even to the point where they're just a little bit above the style, which the style can almost be anything, just kind of neutral base beer that lets the pumpkin spices shine over. I don't know. I just all I'm tasting is spices, and I don't drink these beers, so I shouldn't let that color my impression of beer, because actually what's there is pleasant and it smells good, There's a light little spicy herbal hop, but not much in there. No DMS or diacetyl. It's actually nice, clean beer. The maltiness is low, a little bready, kind of bread like crackery, graham cracker kind of quality underneath there. Plays nice with the spices. Appearance wise, it's a clear orangey amber color with a low white head that has almost no staying power. It fell flat, and I don't know if it's something in the spices that is killing the head. There are some oils from the, cloves or some of those spices have a little bit of oils in them that'll help that head just fall flat. So you have to maybe forgive that. Flavor wise, it's it's pleasant and has a spicy, warm pumpkin pie like flavor to it. I like this beer. It's actually not harsh. The spices are smooth. They're up there, but they're not rough and too intense. There is a lot of that kind of clove oil kind of sensation in the background. I'm getting a lot of that almost anise like clove. Just this, okay, there's a good amount of spice in there. It's not hoppy. It's the bitterness is low. The ferment seems very clean. It's nice and clean beer. Maybe a low temp ale. It's balanced to the malt and the spice. I guess you could say it's balanced to the spice. And the aftertaste just has lingering, nutmeg, allspice, clove, maybe a little cinnamon. It's just a plethora of spicy flavors in there. And it really sticks in there. But after a while, you get the malt back a little bit. And in the late aftertaste, it's like, okay, some of the oils just kind of dissolve away, and you get, okay, it's still a beer. I don't know what kind of beer, but it's beer. Mouthfeel-wise, it's medium light-bodied with a medium low carbonation. There's no, although there's a lot of spice here, it's not an astringent, really biting beer. It's actually pretty smooth, which is surprising given the level of spice here. So that's nice. I'm not getting any alcohol warmth in the beer. It just seems like kind of a middle of the road, 5.5% or something like that. Overall impression, this beer is clean. I really like that it's a nice, clean base beer. And if this was brewed, around the winter holidays, I'm not getting any oxidation either in the bottle here. So if it's from that time, we'll talk about that. It nice job keeping the oxidation out. No cardboard or paper in there. It has all the desired notes for a pumpkin spice beer, warming, smooth alcohol and spice, kind of playing off the light maltiness that's in there. I would keep the spices just a little bit lower. There's maybe just the CO2 might have been a little bit low. Again, the head kind of falls flat. It wasn't super prickly, just kind of fell a little flat, but it's still a fun beer, and it tastes like a pumpkin spice beer. I gave it a 35. I probably should have given it a 37 because it's actually a pretty good beer. But I'm stingy, and I try not to let my impression of a certain beer style color you should be able to judge any style, but like when you're judging in a competition and you fill out the forms right, you can make it so that you just don't judge those beers. And again, I don't hate pumpkin spice beer. I don't seek them out. So maybe it'll be better to listen to what Brian 2 has to say.
Brian 2, Electric Boogaloo. Let's go.
Number 2. All right. I was distracted at the very beginning. I'm not sure if Mr. Cooper, should be Dr. Cooper. We're doctors of homebrew. We're not misters. We are doctors. So Dr. Brian Cooper, I'm not sure if you mentioned the base beer of this.
I didn't.
Okay. So when you're doing a spice beer like this is a Category 30B, which was, I think, like a fall. It's one of the new categories in 2015. What do they call that one? It's like the fall...
fall seasonal
spiced beer. Autumn seasonal beer, yes, which is the fancy way of saying Halloween, I guess. It's international. Maybe for countries they don't do Halloween quite like we do.
Or Thanksgiving.
So, exactly. Thanksgiving, you can serve this for Thanksgiving, and it'd be really nice for Thanksgiving dinner, actually.
That's what I associate with pumpkins.
But what you're supposed to do is declare
pumpkin pie,
your...
anyway.
Well, exactly. Pumpkin pie is Halloween. It's very Thanksgiving-y, but if you're lucky, you might get it by Halloween. The base beer is 13B British Brown, and 2 of the classic examples that are given are Newcastle. The classic one, not the post-Heineken/Lagunitas. I'm not going to open that can of worms, but just state that's
so bad.
I haven't had it. I don't have an opinion. I'm not going to get into it.
You haven't had it?
I have not.
Have it just for the culture. Do it for the culture. It's terrible.
I'm not going to buy a full 6-pack based on what you've said about it.
It's awful. It's brown water with a penny in it. It's so gross.
So I should buy like a full 6-pack of that.
Yeah.
And then do what with it?
Give it to Peter.
Return the 5-pack and ask for 5/6 of your money back.
It's bad,
okay.
bro.
All right. So think of classic Newcastle, which isn't a big beer. It's in Sam Smith's Nut Brown, which I've always liked a lot. But again, it's not a big beer.
It's a great beer.
The base style, the British Brown, it's low alcohol, it's low malt, low hops, but it's got flavor, but it's not a big flavor. It's refreshing, but just kind of there's not a lot to it.
Like a little nuttiness, and that's about it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like me in high school. I had flavor. It wasn't big flavor, but I had some flavor.
And a little nuttiness.
And there wasn't much to me.
We've got some ball powder here if you need it.
Yeah, I do.
We are just in fuego tonight. This is like the best. This is one of the best shows we've done for a long time.
Chris is like, oh my
I
God,
say
dude, get me out of here.
3 minutes in. The aroma, very spice forward. The spice is very pumpkin pie. I got, like Brian, nutmeg. I got high cinnamon. The nutmeg and cinnamon, to me, were really great together. Other spices were in there, too. I know there's always stuff like mace. I have to confess, I couldn't pick mace out of a lineup as far as what that specific spice is supposed to smell like. But if I smelled it, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I recognize that smell. It's got a nice variety of spices in here. They're pleasant. They're at kind of a medium-high level in the aroma. I get a little very low malt aroma, but the spices obviously dominate the aroma of this beer. No hop aroma, no off aromas. I gave it 9 out of 12. Appearance, 3 out of 3. Color is copper to maybe on the dark side of copper. Head is medium and dissipates quickly. As Brian says, that's often a consequence of the oils and the spices, so not surprising. This sample is really clear, but not quite crystal clear. Still, it's totally appropriate for style, hence 3 out of 3. Flavor. Initially, the flavor is pumpkin spice, just like the aroma. You get a little low malt, comes up mid-palate. Get a little nutty character at a low level, but not much. The spices really dominate the flavor all the way through. There's some low hop bitterness to balance. Nice job with the hops. The hops are there, which they need to be, but you don't have the hop flavor that gets in the way. And hop flavor can really be problematic when you're trying to mix with spices, especially a blend of spices like this. Not every hop plays well with every spice.
You want to use something that's not going to give you a really coarse, harsh bitterness.
Yeah, exactly. Or even like a really prominent flavor. Like, I love Simcoe. I love Citra. I love Idaho 7.
Columbus and small amounts.
But I can't imagine like Idaho 7 is going to go with this.
Right.
Even though it's one of my favorite hops. So good selection of hops and good way to be restrained with them so you get some bitterness but not the flavor. Finish is long and dry and spicy. The pumpkin spice, not like spicy heat. It's well attenuated, which is great. The only knock I have on this is there's really not much character of the underlying beer style. Just according to the guidelines, you're supposed to be able to still have some of the character of the underlying beer, which is going to be tough because the underlying beer is a very light style that there's not a lot to. But still, I gave this 13 out of 20 for flavor. Mouthfeel, 5 out of 5. Body's medium-low. No warming. Medium carbonation. It's neither creamy nor astringent. It's a pumpkin spiced beer.
Yeah,
it's good. Overall impression, I compare this really favorably to the Dogfish Head Pumpkin, which is, I like pumpkin spice beer, but I don't like a lot of them. A lot of them, just the spices land on my palate wrong. It's not like they're badly made, but you always go to the store around like Halloween, early November, and there's suddenly 10 different 6-packs of some kind of pumpkin spice beer. I generally don't. I like them, but I generally don't seek them out because the spice combinations don't always suit me. And the Dogfish Head Pumpkin does. And this really does remind me a lot of pumpkin.
Because it's sweeter on the spices and sweeter in the beer. Because a lot of them can be too dry and weird. And
you want to have some sweetness because it's not going to play right otherwise.
Exactly. I mean, the point of these beers is to be reminiscent of pie. And you make them with the spices because the pumpkin itself, you can spend all the livelong day, baking pumpkin and throwing it in your mash. It's not going to taste like anything. In fact, it's going to, in virtually every example I've had of people that have tried to mash pumpkins, it just makes the beer thinner and it just doesn't taste that good.
You know what? The only example, I would normally agree with you until I had the Rogue pumpkin beer.
Okay.
They do the sugar pumpkins and roast them beforehand, and that caramelization of the meat.
Yeah.
It comes through in the beer because I've roasted pumpkins to make pumpkin pie, and that smell and sort of flavor comes through in that beer. And so for whatever they're doing it well. So you can get some flavor out of it too. But anyway, what did you score this?
No, but I totally believe that. And before I get this just very briefly here, I have a little bit of a dilemma in that the advice that I should give from a style standpoint is, back off on the spices and stuff and let the base beer come through. The thing is, I really like this beer the way it is. It's a spice bomb, but it's not like, oh God, it's not a spice bomb in the sense that you have a sip and you don't want to have any more. You have a sip and I want to have more of this. Even though it's because it does obscure the base style. Yeah. So, but I spent some time kind of puzzling over this when I was judging this at home this afternoon, and I pulled up the style guidelines for 13B. And one of the things you can have in 13B is caramel malt and chocolate malt, even like in very low levels. And I wonder if rather than backing off on spices, adding just maybe a little bit of caramel malt, a little bit of chocolate malt.
So bump up the
base beer.
Bump up the base beer to maybe be on the high end. Because even if you're going on the high end of like a 13B, it's still not going to be like a giant beer. And I think that might get you more where you want to go. And maybe like Brian was saying, maybe you back off stuff just a little bit, maybe 10% on spices, maybe. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. But I gave it 7 out of 10 overall impression. Total score 37. Thought it was really good. And while we're talking, I'm going to finish the rest of this sample here.
All right. Here's where I would go with this beer. My idea, and this might be $1 million idea for somebody, make I
love it already.
A PSL pumpkin spice beer.
A pumpkin spice latte?
Yeah. Add some coffee. Nice, smooth, dark roasted coffee. Yeah. Cold brewed, added in secondary. Add some lactose in the beer so you get a kind of creamy coffee and cream like compression. with the pumpkin spice and have a beer that tastes like a pumpkin spice latte. If somebody sent that to us, that would be fun.
Pumpkin spiced milk stout.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's your PSL right there. That's your $1 million idea.
That would be
like
good.
White girls all over this country would just go nuts.
So that would probably be a specialty
pumpkin spiced milk stout with coffee.
Yeah.
Spiced or vegetable beer, but
Yeah.
That would be fun. I don't order those, even when everybody gets excited when they come out.
Okay,
but,
I might make that this fall, Brian. I might put this on my list of things to do.
So I agree with you guys. I like this beer too. When I smell it, it smells like a fucking pumpkin pie.
Yeah,
it sure does.
Because it has that creaminess. It has it actually smells like canned pureed pumpkin, which a lot of pumpkin spice beers do not do. They smell like spice. I don't get a whole lot of spice. I get like actual pumpkin, which I know is irrelevant, but it evokes pumpkin. My problem is I think it's too bitter. I think it's too harsh in a bitter thing. But that's that might just be me. Chris,
I'm going to revisit that quick.
Let's hit your recipe up real fast, man, and tell us how you did this, so we can stop talking out of our asses.
Absolutely, and that kind of was the goal of this one, is to kind of make it like pumpkin pie. So that's why I chose the base beer. It kind of seemed like a good kind of.
I think it works.
I don't know, kind of like pie crust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It smells like I'm smelling pumpkin pie, which I don't really get a whole lot in some of these beers. So already, that's great.
Yeah, right on. All right, so grain bill this is a five gallon batch. So 8 pounds of Maris Otter, 3 pounds of light Munich, 2 pounds of aromatic, 14 ounces of Cara Munich, and I put in half a pound of brown sugar in the boil. And hops, it was just 0.6 ounces of Northern Brewer at 90 minutes. I did do a fair amount of spice in this one, so I think you guys might be right. Maybe I should back off a little bit, but I did like what came out as well. So it was 1 teaspoon of nutmeg at 5 minutes, 1 teaspoon of whole cloves at 5 minutes, and 2 Vietnamese cinnamon sticks at 5 minutes. And then after fermentation, I added 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 2 cinnamon sticks, and let that sit for about 5 days until I racked it in a
vanilla.
Yeah,
I think that's helping you here. That's nice.
The vanilla I don't really perceive, and usually I'm really sensitive to it, so that's a nice smoothing.
But I think it
agent.
aids the perception of sweetness.
I really do, and I like if you back off on your spices, sort of a thing. The proportion of your spices is fantastic. So it might be tough to do, but if you back off on the spices, I wouldn't back off on one more than the others. I would try to keep the same proportion.
Yeah, the proportion is good. I would say maybe the cinnamon was a little high to me, but
maybe.
The clove was a little high too. The clove is such an intense spice, but yeah,
that's true. Maybe
we called out all those.
A little bit more of those.
No mace though.
No.
Gotcha there.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking maybe there was mace in here, but I was wrong.
But you couldn't recall specifically.
Yeah,
there should be, and another invention that someone could make would be like a smell-o-matic attachment that you just put on your iPhone. You're like, because your phone is your brain anymore. Like, well, what does mace smell like? I forgot. Phone, brain, tell me, and it just emits a smell. And you're like, oh yeah, that's what mace smells like. That's cool.
You're giving away like millions of dollars of ideas here, and I'm like your patent guy, and I'm like right here sitting 8 feet away from you. There's like, boom, you've just blown absolute novelty, man.
If you make $10 million, just send me $500,000. I'll be fine with it.
Exactly.
Like smell-o-vision, right?
Yeah.
Chris, are you in a homebrew club?
No, I'm not.
So you're a lone homebrew wolf.
Wow.
Okay.
That's right.
So what do you think, Chris? You got questions for these guys? Are we helping you out?
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you. What was the yeast
You're
used
awesome,
on this
Chris.
one? The yeast, just kind of neutral.
Oh yeah, sorry. It was WLP 007, the dry English ale.
07. Okay, yeah, nice.
All right.
I like that one a lot. That's kind of my go-to myself.
Yeah, I like the attenuation quite a bit. I like dry beers. So it was 6% ABV and finished out at 10.08. So
Wow, nice.
That's bigger than
For finishing as low as it did, it does have the perception of enough sweetness to balance everything else that's going on there. I think that's probably, again,
I
the
think you guys
vanilla.
are right. I think the vanilla really helped.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and it's just that's the key is just enough, right? Like beers that people put affirmatively, like, oh, I'm going to make a vanilla beer. To me, they're always way over vanilla. And you had such a restrained hand with the vanilla that it doesn't come across like it overwhelms everything, but it does kind of give you that underlying sweetness and some idea there's something there tying it together.
But in baking, when a recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of vanilla, you always put 2, right? I mean, that's what you do.
I don't bake.
Okay.
So,
well, I have my, my grandmother's recipe for banana bread muffins. It calls for 1 teaspoon of vanilla. If you just add 1 teaspoon, it's not as good as if you add 2. 2 is prime.
Well, then 3 should be better.
So don't listen to your grandma.
So my grandfather always said about pills.
Oh, yeah.
1 is good, 2 is better, and take 3.
See? Exactly. All right, Chris. Well, if that's it, man, we'll let you go.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks, man.
Later. Yeah, I like the beer. It was just, it was also kind of a little tanning, too. It doesn't hit right. But that smell was so good.
He mentioned to me it had been around for a while, and it had been from the holidays when I was chatting with him about it earlier. But, held up nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was, we both gave it like high 30s. It's a well-made beer. It's good beer.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, hang on, everybody. We're going to be right back with Peter Munoz, direct from Russia.
Pete the Dink.
Somebody's got to show up.
Now count backwards from 100. 99, 98, that's it. 97, 96, 95.
Now back to Dr. Homebrew.
All right, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. We're rinsing my glass here, and it still smells like pumpkin spice. So whatever Peter brought, it's about to be pumpkin spiced, dude.
Yes.
I don't know if the pumpkin spice will stand up to Peter's beer.
Yeah.
You can mix it half and half and probably still taste the same.
What did you bring for us, man?
I brought an American Amber Ale.
An American Amber Ale.
Pretty straightforward.
You know what? I recently bought my first Amber Ale probably in like 10 years the other day. It's a 6-pack of Boont Amber Ale.
And was it good?
Oh, yeah. No. I think it was kind of old. Like the first bottle was like, there's a little green thing going on, but the second or third was fine. It was kind of weird, but I think it was an older bottle, so I'm excited to taste your Amber Ale.
It's an old style.
It's an old style, but I think it was brewed like 6 months ago because my Safeway does not turn over beer very well. But like, let's take a gamble. I feel like Amber Ale is sort of the next pale ale and sort of a little resurgence thing.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think malt is coming back. And also that malt and hop character. Yeah. I think it's going to come back a little bit more.
All right. Well, which of these bottles is your Amber, so I can have some?
This one right here.
All right.
Peter,
it's gone around.
Peter, how long have you been brewing, my friend?
I have been brewing since 2004. Sorry.
Wow.
Yes.
2004.
Yes.
All right. I started before you.
I think you did. Yeah.
All right.
I think I met Peter in 2007 when my club was just starting out.
Like the second meeting.
And you had
that's cute.
Back when I had
ponytail down your back.
That's right. You used to rock your pony.
I remember that, man.
You brought
I'm a lot different
an
now.
arrogant bastard clone to our meeting
an arrogant
bastard in a bottle that had flames etched up the sides of the bottle.
Yeah, and I still have that bottle.
This is a cool guy. I like this Peter guy.
And we have been friends ever since.
Despite the terrible beer he brought.
Yeah.
All right, well, which one of you Brians wants to go first with Peter, considering he's in the room and within arm's distance of both of you?
Yes, this is Brian Shar. I'll go first. Peter is sitting here 3 feet away from me. And he's a good friend that I've known for 10-plus years at this point.
Shot.
So, yes, 15 years?
Yeah.
So,
we've judged many times together.
So, yes, I will look at him while I'm giving him this feedback. And I preface it with all this because this beer has some problems.
It does.
Which, thankfully, you recognize. If you didn't, then we would be having maybe a different conversation right now. I don't know.
No, it tastes great. I don't know what's wrong with it.
It's awesome. I'm going to have more. more.
My friends love daily.
So, excuse me. The hop aroma, it's there. It's high and it's kind of citrusy.
Okay.
But it's really hard to pick out because there's very high fusel/solvent aroma going on. In fact, it's fusely enough that I almost get a headache smelling this. And it's kind of in that intersection of, is it phenol, is it fusel? I'm going more that it's more of a fusel character because I'm not getting there's some plastic but not smoke, but it's really more of that kind of solventy, sort of high alcohol. And if it's the thing that gives you the headache,
okay,
or once you have a headache, to me, that's kind of the key sign of fusels. And that kind of overwhelms everything. I really don't get any malt or anything else, aside from some hop aroma, which does kind of peek out there sometimes. So that's, sadly, 4 out of 12 for aroma.
Wow.
Appearance, yeah. Well, there is the courtesy minimum we're talking about here. I'm not going to give my first 0 here on Dr. Homebrew. I don't have pent-up aggression toward you, Peter. This is... it's not like I've just paid my malpractice premiums or something. I'm happy and calm. I should just pay my malpractice premiums in real life, but that's a whole other thing. Appearance, 2 out of 3. Color's medium brown. It's kind of on the dark edge of style, but it's still appropriate for an amber. It's clear. It's
no head.
Very small head that vanishes almost immediately, which is not to style. So that's docked a point for that. So it's 2 out of 3. Flavor. Initially, the flavor is that fusel/phenol, which I think is primarily the fusels. Don't really perceive any malt. There's a low citrus hop flavor that kind of matches the citrus hop I get in the aroma. High bitterness. The bitterness dominates the finish. It's well attenuated, which I like. Again, the fusels, like with the aroma, the fusels are just overwhelming. So I give it 5 out of 20 for flavor. Mouthfeel, 3 out of 5. Carbonation's low, body's medium. There's really no warming. I get a low astringency out of it, which probably is a function of the fusel alcohol and phenols. Overall impression, I gave it a 3. Because the fusels, what I perceive as the fusels are just overwhelming, and it's just very difficult to drink. And the fusels, we'll wait until after Brian has had a chance to do this, but I'd be curious about your fermentation process and your fermentation temperature, because the fusels, especially when they're really strong, kind of the key. Unlike most other beer flaws, it's not generally bacteria or contamination related. It's more process-related in terms of fermentation temps. So classic fusel profile is you have a 5-gallon bucket of something you're fermenting. You don't have a fridge or temp control. You put it in a corner in your living room. You go to work, and suddenly it's 90 degrees in the summer, and your fermentation temp gets up to like 95 or 100. You'd finish fermenting in 6 hours. But that high-temperature excursion causes the yeast to generate all kinds of these higher alcohols that are the fusels. But if I was going to guess, I'd guess that's what happened, but we'll let Brian judge it, and then we'll talk to you about what happened.
Okay.
I just tried that beer. Whew.
Yeah.
Peter.
I know.
That's bad.
I know.
He told me. Gotta.
And I'm not just saying it because we're friends. That's bad.
Kind of forewarned.
It's a badass beer, yeah.
So we got an American Amber Ale. And he did advise us that the sample we have is not carbonated. So it was the first one we've opened in a long while. You crack the bottle and there's no hiss whatsoever. The fill level was fine. The label removed. It's a nice clean bottle, no hiss. So yeah, in the nose, chlorophenolic all the way, medicinal, kind of hospital-like. Just disinfectant-like note.
Yeah, just to put a fine point on it for anyone out there listening, think of the last sort of antiseptic-y kind of chlorinated thing that you've smelled in your homebrew and magnify it by 10. It's so sharp in that way. It's sort of unlike anything I've ever smelled, especially tasted, with this sort of thing going on.
You ever have a sore throat and get the throat spray? I mean, and usually it's cherry flavored, but it has cherry and this. It's like, or I think there's a red one and then there's a green one, which is just the phenolic.
It reminds you of that stuff that you put on your mom put it on your
right into the microphone, right into the microphone.
Yeah, it reminds me of when my mom would put that red stuff on anytime I scrape my knee or
chili paste.
Chili paste. Yeah.
That'll teach you to scrape your knee.
Yeah, how dare you fall down? Anyway, sorry. Just I think it sort of bears refining there.
Beer-wise, and that just comes out right up front. Beer-wise, there's a low maltiness with a slight caramelly note. It's actually not bad. Low citrusy hop with a lot of resin, a little pine, a little, kind of grapefruit. But the hop is really obscured by the phenols. You have to, it's high. You can tell it's a fairly nicely high hop beer, and I'd love to taste the clean version of this. But has fairly low fruity esters are also just really obscured. But yeah, the hop character that's there is that's one of its redeeming qualities is that the hop character is kind of nice. Well, it's only. Although. You got it in the glass. You got it in the bottle.
I got it in the bottle, as Greg Robles would say.
Our friend Greg. But no, it's kind of semi-clear. It has a nice color to it. It's a nice reddish amber color with no head. You can't tell regarding retention or the head color or texture, but it's fairly clear, and it's a nice reddish amber, deep amber colored beer, which is appropriate for the style. So, it gets 1 point for that.
Cooper is so much better at giving like a bad prognosis to a patient than I am. Your bedside manner is so much better than mine.
Oh, maybe I missed my calling.
He eases it in.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's true.
Getting into the flavor, wow, there's gnarly chlorophenolic right up front. I rarely use the word gnarly on a score sheet, but in this case, I had to do it.
It's impressively dominant. Like, it's so impressively there. You can't taste anything else. You really can't. I can barely taste the pumpkin spice that was in the glass before.
Yeah, in the nose, you can get other stuff, but in the flavor, you mostly just get, boom, they hit that chlorophenolic hits you and bites you and stays and lingers well into the aftertaste of the beer. There's a bit of caramel in there. And it finishes dry, but yeah, there's something going on. There's a flawed, something really flawed here. The medicinal bite is really high, and it's balanced. The flaw shines out over the malt, over the hop, just lingers long in the aftertaste. But there's a little bit of hop there. Again, a little resiny thing, which would be a lot higher if it didn't have that in the way, and it would probably be nice. You can tell the hop is well balanced with the beer. And where it should be if it didn't have the defect in the way. Mouthfeel-wise, medium bodied, no obvious warmth, not creamy. There's a biting astringency to it, and that can be caused by chlorophenolic. There's no carbonation. The beer should have carbonation. I came up to a 2 on the mouthfeel. Overall impression, I just wrote one word, yuck.
You can be brutal.
Sorry. No, I normally I would write a lot more. This would be a beer that for an entrant that, needs that feedback and that really is wondering what's going wrong with their beer. You would give them tons of feedback about, okay, if you're using, municipal source water that's treated with chloramines, filter those out of the water. If there's anything with chlorine in it, chlorophenolic comes from chlorine. So we're really wanting to get rid of any potential source of chlorine in your water, anywhere along the way in your equipment that you're using somehow, or any source of chlorine. People in the old days used to sanitize with dilute bleach, and people usually don't do that anymore. They know to use your Star San, But I don't know. Yeah. So chlorophenolic. I'm reading the Barnes guide. Is adhesive tape, antiseptic,
Tobin Spear guide,
Band-Aid. The Barnes beer flaws guide. You can search for uncured lacquer. Medicinal mouthwash. And they have an astringent, drying, and numbing, or even prickly or puckering mouthfeel. And this is, origin is going to be process / equipment faults or contamination.
Tastes like shit. I think it's what it should really be updated. So what do you think? So what did you give it, by the way, bro? Did you already score it?
I came up from my original 13 to 14.
Man. Okay.
Just for fun.
So you're an accomplished home brewer. You've won some shit. So what do you think happened? Before we get into anything, what do you think happened?
Peter.
What's that?
You made good beer, Peter.
He shared 2 other really good beers.
I made the old ale that's right here that I was passing around. That got second place in Best of Show.
Yeah, I enjoy
First
your
place
old,
in category,
nice.
Second place in Best of Show.
Yeah.
So I know how to make decent beer.
So what happened here?
He really does.
What do you think?
Several things.
Oh, shit.
One, I did, and as I was discussing with Brian earlier, I did use this is RO water, treated with using Beersmith for the amber balanced
profile.
Amber hoppy beer, kind of, yeah.
So nothing too crazy. The recipe is 2-row malt, 11 pounds 2-row for 1 pound Crystal 60, half-pound Victory malt, hopped with Columbus for bittering, Chinook at 30, and Cascade at 5.
And how much chlorine per 5 gallons?
About a gallon.
Okay, that's what I would have guessed.
But everything is pretty straightforward. It was a pretty easy brew day.
Yeah.
Now this is fermented with Quebec. Now I have actually used, and this is actually the Quebec Voss. I've used this yeast probably 7 times now.
Okay.
So I understand its fermentation. Or at least I think I do. As you know, I'm pretty
smart,
autistic,
fairly smart, autistic. Any way you want to look at it. But I do my research. And I'm on several Quebec groups, and so I follow this thing. I'm like in it.
I don't know why that's funny to me, but there's Quebec homebrew groups.
There's 2 Quebec groups, and they're very good.
I'm sure they are.
You're like the most Latino Scandinavian guy that there is.
And there are several things about that because I really want to learn that process.
Yeah,
cool. And their history because I think it's fascinating. Yeah. But when you listen to people from Norway, they're talking about making New England IPAs.
Of course they are, because they're all...
Come on, man.
Well, it's 2020. Yeah. It's global. We have the internet. Everybody wants to do stuff you can't get locally.
Well, it's the same thing in England. We're trying to figure out how to... We were 5-8 years ago how to make nice English style beers, and they want to know how to make IPAs. Anyway, so what do you think? So
going back to the beer.
So what do you think happened?
And actually, I've used this yeast several times. I've gotten really good results. And again, I use RO water. It's built up, so I know that's from the same source as any other beer that I do. I ferment at 85, which is under the high end.
Okay.
So it could be. I could say some hot phenols maybe, but
hot fusels.
Or hot fusel.
Where did you get your yeast from?
That yeast, I got it from Yeast Bay.
Yeast Bay, okay. And it was a fresh pitch. Did you make a starter?
No, not with that one, because you don't have to.
No,
you should underpitch. Not like incredibly underpitch, but
with that yeast strain,
you can stress it out, and it's fine.
So, I mean, this might be a really dumb question, but is it possible that your RO system didn't work and you're just using unfiltered water?
Possibly.
Okay.
Now, the other thing that, and I was talking with a fellow club member about this, when I did dry hop this beer with, I want to say Citra. Not a lot, but a little. Yeah. But one of the things that we were... Because he got this kind of weird flavor as well, and we were wondering, is this because we're fermenting at both 85 degrees, is this a kind of like an effect from fermenting or from dry hopping at such a high temperature? Are we pulling out something out of the hops that could cause this?
Good hops have gone bad.
Yeah.
It could be.
I would be
maybe
shocked.
That wouldn't be the flavor I would expect. I would expect something more vegetal.
I would think
weird.
so too.
I mean,
I'm going to speculate.
Yeah.
But Jason, you go ahead. I'm sorry, I can speculate in a minute.
I was just going to say, I mean, that could be some of it, but I don't think it's all of it. I think there's a potential because how focused this is. I would not be surprised if it was more than one thing wrong.
And then the other thing I noticed on I have a 10-gallon conical, and on the gasket, it has some mold growing on it.
I don't know.
I don't know
which gasket.
I have
the one
around the top.
Yeah, for the lid.
It's right on the top.
Is it a plastic or metal conical?
Metal. It is a stainless. I believe that's what they sell. And as you can see, there's some of the little.
Yeah.
Now smell the gasket.
See, and I heard you talking about that before the show.
God, that smells awful.
There you go. See.
Here, let me smell that. I have a better.
I
better
think
nose
it
than
could
you.
come from the gasket.
Well, I guess it could, but I would think that it's more of during fermentation the gasket. But these gaskets aren't supposed to retain. It smells like butt.
Yeah.
No,
actually, it smells
worse in a different way.
Yeah, it smells like cheesy hops.
Yeah.
It's a little sour, a little funky, but sort of vegetal in a hoppy way.
See, and a gasket, and that's silicone, so it should not.
It should not. Yeah. No. So I would take that back to whomever and then see about getting replacement. But also, but that smell is not what we taste or smell in the beer.
No.
And again, I don't know. I don't know what you did. I don't know how many batches I've done.
Yeah.
And
not enough, clearly, because this
apparently
sucks.
not.
Yeah, this is the worst.
And it really, when this happened, I have my process. And this really threw me for a loop.
Sure.
It could have been maybe when I was cleaning the chlorine in the water that from cleaning could have done it. I don't know.
No, it's not. No, that's not to this extent. I'm going to speculate, and I don't mean again. I've not used yeast from the yeast bay, and I don't mean to impugn anything about them. So
hey, they're not sponsors. We can say whatever we want to do. I don't care.
Guess because what's to me what's happened to your beer is an intersection of two things. It's fusels because that's where phenol I'm pretty sensitive to, and I get phenol, a lot of phenol in here. But it doesn't give me the headache, and I smell that, and I start getting a headache, literally. And that's classic fusel. And fusel is from high temperature. And phenol is typically wild yeast or something like that. And I speculate that maybe what happened, especially because Kveik, what's the right way to say that?
Kveik.
Yeah.
So, Kveik is such a new thing. And everybody's excited about it, except for, I think, me. Kveik is like my hazy IPA for you, Jason.
No.
Because
you just have to embrace it.
And
you can't hate it that much.
And you can make clear beer with it.
And I'm sure that there are good Kveik beers. I have not really had any, to my recollection. There's always something weird off with them. People are like, I could ferment at 100. And I'm like, yeah, you sure did. And it's just, I don't get it, but I'm sure there are some.
I get that.
I'm sure there are some that. But having said that, I speculate that maybe what happened is because it's a different yeast than people are used to handling and dealing with. Maybe the pitch you got had maybe wild yeast, maybe normal
wild growing on it as well.
Maybe normal Cerevisiae yeast, because the Kveik, whatever other flavors you get. You're not going to get, like, the fusels off of a Kveik going up to an excursion of 80, 90, 100 degrees.
No, because
that's the point of the Kveik, right?
Yeah.
But if there's something else in there that's like normal beer yeast, right, then that's going to start pumping out fusels at high temperature. And if you have something that's maybe a wild yeast in there also, say maybe it was difficult to distinguish between the Kveik and maybe a wild yeast. And I'm not a geneticist. I don't handle yeast on a day-to-day basis.
I'm actually finding out that a lot of the yeast companies, such as Omega and Bootleg, White Labs has their own version. They're when they tell you what, like, again, Voss, because the Quebec strains can be like multiple strains. It's not just a single. It's not a singular thing.
Mm-hmm. So that's my opinion.
And
that's what
pulling what works for them. So it can be any one of the one strains that they like from the Voss. Okay. And so each one is actually different.
Yeah, so then in your multiple group, you had what you wanted.
And that one kind of mutated.
And there was something else that didn't like the high temperatures.
Yes.
And it was also kind of a wild yeast. So you ended up with the fusels and the phenols, and you ended up with this hot mess, which was, I mean, and this is, I don't say that to be mean.
No.
We're friends, and I've known you for forever, but it's, I mean, you're probably, I'm sure you're more surprised about this than anybody.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You know what the hell
definitely.
happened. I know you know your process, you know your system. It's none of this stuff is stuff we have to tell you about. So what's the only variable left, right? The only variable left is the yeast. And the two problems that came out of this yeast are two problems that come from wild yeast and high-temperature fermentation. And that's maybe two things that we know for sure you had high-temperature fermentation, and there could have been wild yeast in that blend. And that's the only thing I can speculate as to what happened.
Okay.
I agree.
Brian, does that make sense to you? I've been yapping. I've been monopolizing
because Brian
this.
was talking about chlorophenols,
and
that was my first impression when I first started.
Peter Munoz, stay on that microphone, or I'm going to kill you.
No.
Yes, get it right in front of you. Pull it in front of you, and move it where you want to go. But you need to be right on it. Also, I'm going to interrupt you because we're going to take a break.
Put your lips on
because we're almost
phone.
done. We almost ran out of time because Brian Shar had to talk about a bunch of shit.
On.
So just hang on. We'll come right back. We'll wrap this up. We'll finish whatever has to happen, and then we're going to get out of here. So hang on. It's Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Kings.
The leader in affordable, high-quality kegerators is here. Introducing Komos, the kegerator designed with serious beer drinkers in mind. It features an all-stainless steel draft tower, a major upgrade over traditional chrome-plated brass towers, and Komos keeps your new tower cold with their air-cooled tower fan, wrapping your beer lines in frigid coolness. Your beer is poured from innovative forward-sealing faucets that don't leak, so they stay cleaner for longer. Dual gas inlets on the rear of the fridge allow you to run both CO2 and nitrogen gas. Serve your beer with CO2, serve your kegged wine or even cocktails with nitrogen. The digital temperature display has the largest range available, allowing you to use the Komos Kegerator for fermentation if you need to. And now Komos Kegerators ship with duo-tight draft fittings for that click-to-connect assembly we've all dreamed of. Buy direct from KomosDraft.com and receive free shipping on your order. That's KOMOS Draft.com.
All right, thanks for sticking around, everybody. Okay, I'm sorry. Who was up in the Let's Beat Up on Peter?
Yeah,
I think it was my turn.
Yeah, it's Brian's turn.
Brian Cooper, go ahead, wrap it up. You're going to get about 4 minutes on this.
Okay.
And then we got to get out of here.
I don't think it's so much fusels. I think it's just straight chlorophenolic. I don't know how. I don't know why. I think Peter's neighbor hates him. He came over with a bottle of chlorine.
I've caused
dumped it
problems.
into his beer and said, "Screw you!
Yeah,
I'm going to mess up your beer." Ha ha ha! Ran back to his house.
But he wasn't talking to me.
Oh,
so maybe he did. I don't know.
Maybe he had a squirt gun.
There was the peeing on a truck incident.
Uh-oh.
But
let's delve more into
that's
this.
for another time.
That's for another time.
Oh.
Well, look, the more and more that we talk about it, the more I think that I was right and Peter just fucked up his filtering.
It might be.
But I buy water. See, that's the thing.
You buy water to RO it.
I buy RO water.
You buy RO water.
Yes. I go to a water store because Manteca water sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't have an RO filled system.
No.
Okay.
So those places are usually pretty good. I mean, they're filtering it.
And I've been going to the same place for years, so he's usually pretty good.
Did you taste your water beforehand?
I do. I drink. It tasted fine.
Oh, okay. Well, then I was wrong.
I don't know. See, that's what I don't get.
You'd be able to tell if the water was not properly RO'd.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's so weird, dude. I don't know. Can we help Peter or can we not? I don't think we can.
It's a weird mystery.
Think
so.
Have we failed? Is this our first failure?
I'm not entirely convinced that it couldn't be something from wild yeast that is more on the plasticky phenolic side, but it still just smells distinctly and tastes distinctly like chlorophenolic, that chloroseptic taste and smell.
Yeah. Now, a couple other things that I can bring up is, of course, after talking with you, I filled a couple bottles, and I was going to send it to somebody to reclaim the alcohol, as we call it.
Okay, right. Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was transferring some into a keg and dumping the rest, and I noticed along the top of the conical, in the top dome, along the edge where the blow-off is, because that's where the yeast, the excessive yeast escapes, there was like a dark, almost brownish black ring of yeast, which I thought was kind of odd. I've
seen that before.
Is that normal?
Yeah, it happens.
Because I was thinking maybe that could have caused it.
I don't know. But I think Brian Cooper's right. I think it's chlorophenol. It's not. I don't think it's a contamination issue.
Yeah.
It's so pungent and sharp.
And chlorophenol is inherently chlorine. It has to have chlorine.
It has to come from somewhere.
It has to come from your water. I don't know. Maybe not. Something happened. I don't know. That's very weird.
It's very weird.
Too bad you can't send it to like a lab.
You could.
But like for what are you testing for? Why it was chlorinated?
Why it tastes like crap.
Yeah. There's chlorophenolics in here.
But
or there's fusols in here.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because and that's
try it.
Why
it's
I
so weird.
I do want to know.
Yeah. I guess we can't help you.
I'll chip in $40 to get it analyzed.
I'll chip in Brian's $40. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take your $40.
No, I
got to lab at work.
I stand by my speculation, but I also, I mean, it is possible. I mean, it's possible, even if you tasted your water, that maybe there's chloramines in there at a lower, but that shouldn't cause this much.
Yeah.
Cause this much chlorophenol.
That's why I think it's a combo of something.
Yeah.
It has to be. It can't be one specific singular thing. It can't be.
No,
there's too much.
And I've brewed with, Manteca water is crap. I've brewed with filtered Manteca water and have made better beer than this.
Yeah.
What do you clean and sanitize with?
I clean with a industrial caustic.
Okay.
And I sanitize with an industrial acid.
Okay.
It's an acid. They call it acid 14. It's
parasitic or something.
It's a parasitic acid.
So you're not screwing around with any consumer
You're using
grade
like
stuff.
pro brewers.
I use stuff that'll burn holes in your body.
So you should really you're wearing goggles and stuff. I hope.
Yes,
good because you're smart.
Well, that's what happened. That's why he doesn't have ponytail anymore.
Yeah.
It burns off. Yeah.
He knows safety. Yeah.
Safety
Your line of work. I know.
What do you sanitize your bottles with?
No, we're done, Brian. Sorry. We're done.
What toothpaste do you use?
We're done.
I'm just checking about maybe it's a
when
bottle.
You're cleaning
issue.
the windows in your brewery.
No, this is pre-bottle. This is out of the fermenter.
I'm grasping its
really
straws.
Peter, I'm sorry that we couldn't help you, dude. I don't know what's going on, but keep us posted because I would really like to know if you ever figure it out.
Your other beers, your double and your old ale are awesome. So keep brewing.
All right. Well, I'm glad that we got I got a sample of this and not the other shit.
Time for a second
Brian
opinion
at
for some other doctor's homebrew.
thebrewingnetwork.com.
I need another doctor.
Yeah.
Send us your beer.
Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com if you want to be on Dr. Homebrew, and I promise that unless your beer is as screwed up as Peter's, we can help you out.
Hey Brian, looking for a few good beers or something?
We are.
That's right. Peter, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you coming
Thank
in.
you.
All right. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.